Welcome to the Liberated Feminine Podcast. I'm Lucy Lampy, your host, and in today's episode, we're exploring what your fantasies might be saying about you. Maybe you have some really out there fantasies that you would consider super secretive, taboo, a little bit, oh my God, I can't tell this to anybody. Maybe they're shame-ridden. Maybe they're not. Maybe you speak openly about them. But whatever is happening in your erotic psyche, I'm here to help you begin to unpack a little bit more. Now, if this is all new to you, I'm wanting to make this presentable and digestible in a way that won't be too much or overwhelming. There is a lot of dense information in this topic and this whole world of kink and fantasies and taboo desires, which is why I have, and I'm currently right now at the time of filming this, put together and am hosting a 5-day series all about that. The sexual shadow, the taboo, kinks, peeling through fantasies, all of that good juicy stuff that usually lives in the shadow territory of sexuality that people don't speak as openly about or bring the level of consciousness to it that you might be looking for. So if that's something that speaks to you, that intrigues you, then check out the link in the show notes here, because even after the series is done, complete, all of the replays will continue to live there without expiration. So definitely be sure to get in on that, okay? Now, when we're talking about kinks and fantasies, resist the temptation to pathologize. Okay, and our binary thinking, right, wrong, morality minds, we want to assign some kind of wound or trauma to every kink. It's just a normal part of trying to understand and deconstruct so that we can fix something. And this is completely human. So if you find yourself in that space, I want to validate that that's a completely human, normal thing to do, to make something as if it were a broken part of you. But I want to reassure you that you are not broken. Okay? So much of what we find erotic and sexually arousing physiologically in our bodies comes down to our erotic wiring and erotic imprinting. So when we are growing up, when our brains are forming, our minds are making us associations about everything, perhaps the sense of urgency or the adrenaline that you felt about the potential of getting caught by someone, like getting caught masturbating. Maybe that was imprinted into your nervous system as arousing, as exciting, as that like exhilaration. And so your body remembers these things. Now, there is a lot to be said, more than I can speak to in this video in this kind of space, about trauma reenactment. Now, sometimes it is, there is a way to experience deep, deep healing by not reenacting trauma, but by reenacting a type of scenario that puts you in the same kind of emotional state that you were in when you experienced trauma, but then you are actually in control. You set the boundaries, you set the consent, you have pre-negotiated, you have the safe word, all of these things, and this puts you back in the driver's seat. This is you regaining and reclaiming your sovereignty, your agency, your choice, and your power. So this is absolutely one of the most powerful parts of playing around in the kink world that I have also experienced in my own ways. So while we want to hold this awareness of what the wound is, what the deeper, maybe a trauma that it might be stemming from, that you're aroused by this or this or this, we also don't want to assume that everything is a pathology, that everything comes from some kind of trauma. All right, now, again, I'm gonna rewind just a little bit here of what I said about the emotional states. Okay, did you catch that? Because this is not about the specific act, but about the emotional state. Because most fantasies are about emotional states, not about specific acts. So for example, let's take a really common one, the praise kink. Oh, yes. Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Do you like to be told, good girl, that's my good girl? And do you melt at that? If you cringe at that, that's totally fine too. Look, that's not your it's not your cup of tea, but don't, as my friend Kimmy Inch says, don't ick someone else's yummy, okay? It's my yummy in certain contexts. Yeah, I love when my man calls me his good girl or a good girl. Now, the deeper desire in that may be to not just feel seen and acknowledged that I did a good job, but to actually feel celebrated. To feel celebrated. You see how that is elevated from just being seen, like, oh yeah, you're doing the thing, you're doing this thing to me. No, you are doing such a good job. And that praise right there, oh my God, that does something to me still, because I know that for me, growing up in kind of an existential question of, am I being good enough for God? Right, growing up as a pastor's daughter, pretty much everything was kinky because everything was off limits. So anything that had to do with the sexual, the sensual, the erotic pleasure was just taboo. So I had my pick of taboo things to work through and explore in my adulthood. But that sense of, okay, well, am I good enough as I am? Am I good enough? Am I doing a good enough job? Am I being in service enough? Is somebody noticing me? Is Jesus watching and telling me I'm doing good? Because I need to be told I'm doing a good job and I'm a good girl. And so in the erotic context, what's brilliant about our psyche is that it will eroticize symbolically the things that it wants to bring to reconciliation, the things that are fragmented. So your fantasy may not make sense whatsoever in logic, but in symbolism, there's a lot to unpack there that you can really learn about yourself. So again, just scratching the surface here, but that praise kink might be pointing to this deeper desire, this deeper need that this part of you needs to be met, to be celebrated. Now, another one might be maybe exhibitionism, right? Exhibitionism, to confront your deeper fears of being seen and to be seen with admiration, to be seen with to turn other people on with how much bigness you are, with your light, with your radiance, your erotic aliveness. This a deeper desire to be fully seen in all of your glory, in your bliss. Voyeurism, the other side of the same coin, to see, to witness without shame or guilt, and still be in control of who sees you witnessing. Because there's a safety in that. So much of this comes down to safety. What helps your subconscious mind, your nervous system, your body to feel safe enough to feel arousal? And some nervous systems early on in that erotic, wiring and imprinting learned that, let's say, for example, that one of the ways that you self-soothed when your parents were having explosive arguments was to go into your room and masturbate. So you associated your body associated this intensity and this big energetic chaos with arousal, with turn on. And maybe, just maybe, I've talked with many, many people who this is true for them. Maybe now as an adult, you're trying to figure out, why do I need intensity to get off? Well, maybe that's part of it. Not the whole story, but part of it. So much that contributes to our erotic imprinting. Or maybe when there was chaos in your home, if there was chaos in your home, or when there was stress or just fear, maybe instead of touching yourself and pleasuring to self-soothe, maybe you felt completely shut down. So now when you have big stress in your life, that part of you just shuts down completely. It doesn't associate anything sexual or erotic or arousing about it. You need to feel safe in your body before you can open up. So you can see how some nervous systems will find safety in the intensity and some will find danger in intensity. Isn't this amazing? This is so, okay, I geek out over this stuff for so many years now because I wanted so much to understand my own erotic imprinting and my own erotic patterns and psyche and turn on and turn off. And so I've gone down many, many rabbit holes in this and studied with the neuroscience, with the psychology, with the shadow work, with the spirituality, with our astrology, our karmic patterns. All these things are all so fascinating, intertwined. All right, now, what's another one? Let's see. Bondage and restraint. I love me a good rope tying and suspension. What is that about? Does somebody want to completely be powerless? Well, what's the deeper desire in that? To be completely surrendered, to trust someone, maybe God, maybe life, maybe yourself, your journey, so fully that you give that complete agency over your body, control. Because when you are in a good tie, in a good rope tie, you ain't going nowhere, huh? You are not going anywhere. And if you resist it, if you fight it, if you were to do that, you could really hurt yourself. So it's like this practice of softening and opening. And there is so much that can come up in the body, by the way, if you do choose to explore in the rope tying aspect of BDSM and kink. Make sure that you do it with someone who is doing it from a place of consciousness and love and deep care. And if you are in San Diego, quick shameless plug here for my girl Tony in the Rope Collective, because she has held that space for me multiple times and she is the real deal. And so are the people in her community. There we go. So that desire to just trust and surrender and know deeply that you are held and to feel held. And there's almost like a womb-like feeling about it where you're constrained, but there's so much freedom in it. It's paradoxical. Now, the nervous system encodes, again, it encodes unmet needs in erotic imagery. So just because you have a fantasy about one thing or another, or you have a specific kink, doesn't mean that now you need to go play it out. Or in order to explore yourself fully, you have to go have that bukkake fantasy. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need 12 guys, come all over you. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I know that I learned that for me. I had that fantasy for a long time, and I learned that, I don't. I don't need that. I don't need that because I had every opportunity to make that a reality. And when it came down to it, I said, this does not actually align with my highest truth. I explored a lot of other things, but some fantasies are better just in your head. And another thing to remember too is that when it comes to the symbolism too, your kinks and fantasies can change form over time. Do not be surprised if this happens. All right, I would say that 10 years ago, I identified as much more kinky than I do now. But in actuality, a lot of those things that I was just exploring then are just a part of my regular life or just a part of me, a part of the things that I would do. Maybe not all the time, but from time to time, like the rope tying or some bondage play or certain kinds of, domination, power play, things of that nature. What you may notice is that when you first explore something, it's all shiny and new and edgy. And there's this feeling of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm really putting on the blindfold. I'm really letting you tie my hands to the bedpost. And then it just becomes this thing that you do. Sometimes a really powerful fantasy that you've repressed for a really long time, but you give it the space to just be acknowledged and witnessed in your own mind. Sometimes it will lose its charge once it is given space to simply exist. I've seen this many, many times, and I've experienced it myself. There's almost a grief in that, like, that thing isn't hot anymore because it's not just my little secret anymore. So the deeper thing that I wanted, though, was the intimacy of being seen and known. I was done. I was tired of just being in secrecy and being like, this is my little taboo secret. I wanted the fucking intimacy. Bro. I wanted intimacy, bro. Sis, whoever's watching. And so that was a trade-off. And for you, that may or may not be a trade-off as well. Just so you know, throwing that in there for you on your happy little journey of exploring your kinks and fantasies. But for the fantasies and kinks that stick with you for the long haul, you get to experience these deeper, richer layers of those same fantasies. So with me, still enjoying the sensation play, the restraint, feeling like that not complete immobilization, but like the weight of my partner's body on me, where I can't go anywhere, and he knows it, and he uses this with just the right amount of pressure and like sexy constraint. That dark masculine stuff that I talked about in a few videos. Yeah, a few videos ago, a few episodes ago, if you're listening on Spotify. And so that can look different. There's a lot more presence involved now. There is a deeper like soul connection there. I can't really explain or even put words to it, but it just feels like it goes, like it descends more. It's not just we're playing on the playground now, like we have descended and we have reached a certain level of maturity in this act of bondage and restraint that feels so much more grown and satisfying. So just notice for yourself what parts of your kink and fantasy exploration end up sticking with you in the long run. And so the big thing is giving them space and permission to exist. That is what your fantasies and your kinks are asking of you. Can you give them space to be witnessed, even just by you? And then as a next step, if you're in a relationship, will you dare to let them be seen and known by your partner? That opens up a whole other can of worms. We're not getting into that in this episode, but in the Unbound series, I do include a few workbook guides, these prompts, and one of those guides is the erotic communication guide, so that you can have some grounding, some more footing on how to explore these kinds of conversations with your partner, and also how to explore your sexual shadow deeper so that you can embody more of that yummy, dark, feminine or masculine energy. All right, folks, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me for this episode as always, and here is to liberating your wild feminine heart.